The Seahawks surprised everyone by selecting a Division II standout with their final pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. What does Michael Jerrell bring to the Seahawks? We're going to be chatting with his head coach here on a bonus edition of Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A special thanks to all the 12s tuning in for this bonus Monday episode, whether you're down in San Jose, California, or overseas in London. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. This is Corbin Smith, host for the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming off of an exciting 2024 NFL Draft, thrilled to have Kory Allen, the head coach of the Findlay Oilers, joining us to talk about Michael Jerrell, his draft choice, a rare draft choice for a Division II program. I believe it's the fourth that you guys have had in your program's history. Seahawks selecting him with the 207th pick in the 6th round. Coach, greatly appreciate you taking a chance to chat with us about this really exciting prospect that I've really been looking forward to learning more about.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Corbin. Anytime we get a chance to talk about one of our guys, especially on on the tail end of a weekend that was so exciting for him, his family, and our program, we welcome the opportunity.
First off, I want to congratulate you and your program because, again, this is something that's happening a little bit more frequently, but it's still Division II and lower level players getting drafted. It's still something that is a remarkable accomplishment for the personnel staff, your coaching staff, the players themselves. And I'm sure it's a nice feather in your cap on the recruiting trail as well. What does this mean for Findlay, for the Oilers, to have a player like Michael Jerrell, who was with the program for 6 years, have this journey culminate being selected by the Seattle Seahawks?
Yeah, that's a great opening question. And it's one that probably could go a lot of different ways. Number one, I think with him, I'm just so happy for him. You know, Michael, he chose to stay true to us. And so I think that really is the foundation of what does it mean for us as a program and as an institution, is that it can be done from here. That it has been done from here in the past, and it's just happened again. But you talk about these 4 draft picks in today's day and age, for a kid with Michael's talent and ability to stay here when the portal and the NIL are such tempting things to chase. He decided to stay with us, and so I was just really happy for him that loyalty and that perseverance through his time here was rewarded in the 6th round. It was an unbelievable day.
Looking back at his journey to Findlay to begin with, he obviously was a basketball player at Pike, and I can speak from experience. He was not an offensive lineman until his senior year for the Red Devils, catching a touchdown as a tight end, as a JV tight end against my Franklin Central Flashes way back in 2016. What did you see in Michael? He was 245 pounds coming out of high school. He had 1 year of experience playing offensive line. What jumped out to you to take the chance on this kid when very few other programs had him on their radar at that point?
Well, I don't think that any kid coming out of high school is a finished product, but certainly some guys are further along than others in their maturation, in the game and also physically. And so for us to see someone that had that wingspan, that length, that frame that can grow and mature into, like, if somebody looked and said, well, that kid looks like a Power 5 offensive tackle. How'd you get him? Well, we got him when he didn't look like a Power 5 offensive tackle or like an NFL offensive lineman. And so we went and watched him. One of the guy that had the area at that time was our defensive line coach, Darius Davis, and the head coach at the time, Rob Keyes, who's now down at Ohio State. And then I was coaching the offensive line. We went over there to watch him play a Pike High School basketball game. And we saw this 6'5", 245-pound kid running up and down the court. And then it was somewhere around the point that he threw down a dunk that we made sure his mom knew that he'd be taken care of financially at our place.
That's an exciting story. I know that the Seahawks, even with the change in coaches, they have always loved multi-sport athletes. That is something that always jumps out to John Schneider in the evaluation process. But as you said, he came into Findlay far from being a finished product, way smaller than most NFL tackles are going to be. I mean, at least if we're looking at the last 30 years, there was a time NFL tackles were 245, 250 pounds, but things have changed. Looking at his development in his 6 years with the program, when did that light switch come on where you started to think this is a viable NFL prospect? This is a guy that NFL teams are going to have interest in. And where did you see growth from him that really demonstrated, hey, this kid has what it takes to play at the next level?
Well, his story of grit and perseverance is impressive, and it's a bit of a long one. His path was not a straight line. He came in here in 2018 as a freshman, and because of the depth that we had on the offensive line at that time, he played in some games as a backup, and so we used his redshirt year. They didn't have the 3-game, 4-game redshirt rule. That's now been adopted at the Division II level just this past fall. So if you played a snap, you used a year. And based on our depth, he played a little bit. I think he was probably 255, 260 at that point. He put on a little bit of weight, but he was nowhere near ready. So he came into the fall of 2019, was battling for the starting right tackle spot. And there were a couple upperclassmen in front of him, and he got beat out for that job. And so when that happened, I had a conversation with our head coach, Rob Keyes, and we sat down and we said, we see what's coming down the line. If he continues to grow and mature, this dream can turn into a goal, which ultimately on Saturday turned into a reality. But I said, but if we play him at 19 and he hasn't won a starting job yet, if we play him, he's only going to have 2 years of eligibility left. He's going to be halfway through his career without playing yet. We needed to look out for the young man's future. So we actually redshirted him his second year here. And that was tough for him. I thought, if you talk to Michael, he'll probably tell you that there was a ton of growth and growing pains that second year here on campus. And he got his redshirt year back. And so I talked to him after that. So now he's a redshirt freshman. And I said, hey, man, when you come back, you're going to be the guy. Right. And we're going to see how good we can get you. And then COVID hit. And then so then we didn't play that fall. And then so we went into the spring. We played a conference only spring season, which was 6 games. He started all 6 games. He was named first team all conference, and it was a good way to get his feet wet. Then he came back in the fall of 21 and started every game in through the playoffs. We won the conference. He had a really good year, and then the rest is history. But when did you find out that, hey, this is going to be the guy? In 19, actually, when he redshirted, because we saw him handle that with perseverance. He grew physically, he grew mentally, he started to mature. And then, what you have is an unbelievable career here.
This episode of Locked On Seahawks is brought your way by Game Time. You shouldn't have to start ripping your hair out when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. This weekend, I went to see the Avalanche and the Jets play in an NHL playoff game with my wife. We were able to get awesome seats for under $300 to see a postseason game via Game Time. We had an absolute blast. It certainly helped that Colorado scored 5 goals and got the victory. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, and the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price to write your own memories. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And there's still so many stories of guys that are similar to Michael in the sense that COVID year, the wrench that threw in, and for some guys, it derailed them. And then for players like Michael, hey, I'm just going to use this extra time. I'm going to get more work in the weight room. I'm going to work on technique stuff. And then once I get in the field, I'm ready to roll. And there are a lot of guys like that in this draft class, even in the Power 5 level. And so it's been really fascinating to see how that has played out. Looking at the last several months, obviously Michael participated in the Hula Bowl and got the opportunity to go to Ohio State. And that's what John Schneider said jumped out to him when we talked to John Schneider after the pick was made on Saturday, that they were just blown away by what he did at that pro day workout at Ohio State. During this process, did you have communication with the Seahawks? How much correspondence did you have with NFL coaches? And did you believe that he was going to get drafted? Were you optimistic at this point that he was going to be a selection in one of those 7 rounds?
Well, I think you're never really 100% sure unless they're inviting you to be up there, in the green room or whatever the case may be. I don't know. We haven't had a first round pick, but as the process went on, we had well over 25 teams in this fall to see us. The Seahawks were here. The Seahawks scout was here, and then we had we had some player personnel folks come in, and it was a very active fall for us in regards to the NFL being on campus. And we knew that was going to be the case with him coming back as a known commodity, right? Because the NFL, with the extra COVID years, started looking at guys several years out because they could come out at any time. Michael obviously chose to stay, and that was a huge positive for him. And he had a really good senior year, culminating in All-American status, lineman of the year in the league, all those things. But my communication with the NFL and with the scouts kind of went dormant at the end of the year, where now it's time to train. Can we get into one of these bowl games, which he did in the Hula Bowl? And then the opportunity arose to get down to Ohio State, where my former boss here and Michael's head coach for the first half of his career, Rob Keys, is on staff down there with Coach Day and company. And so he got in down at Ohio State. And some of that conversation, in the back channels was, should he go down to Ohio State or should he go to a different pro day? And, basically we came up with the idea and Michael did that. Hey, I'm ready for this. I want to go to a big stage and I want to perform, and then I was fortunate enough to go down there with our head strength coach who had a large part in Michael's development, Coach Chad Wagner. He and I went down there for his pro day, and, he might not have been wearing scarlet and gray, but he certainly didn't look out of place. One of the best looking guys in the building. He was ready mentally. He was ready physically, and he had a heck of a day. It was great to see.
You mentioned earlier, this is what stood out to me in the conversation with him shortly after he was selected on Saturday. He had a great conference call with us. We really enjoyed talking to him, but you mentioned the word loyalty, and being a former coach myself and seeing how things have changed in college football and college sports landscape in general. What does it say about this young man that there were Power 5 schools that were trying to get him to come up? That would have been the easy route in terms of trying to get to the NFL. If you can go play for a Big Ten school, it's going to be a much better opportunity to get yourself on the radar. But what does it say about him that he realized all of the commitment that you guys put into him, developing him, that he turned down any of those possibilities and saw things through at Findlay to still achieve this dream as a Division II prospect?
It means everything. I think it says that we're doing things the right way here. It's not to say that we'll never lose a kid to the transfer portal again. I think we will. That's just the landscape. But it shows everybody that it can be done here. And for him, that conversation came up, with a year to go, and we sat right in this office that I'm sitting in now. And we had a conversation, and Michael could tell you that I looked at him and I said, Michael, if you go in the portal today, by tomorrow, you'll have 40 to 50 offers. Power 5, SEC, Big Ten, you'll have them all. And there will be NIL money out there. I said, I'm not going to tell you that wouldn't happen. It would happen, and I know it would happen. But with a year to go, and we had already had 20 plus teams on campus his junior year, his third year of eligibility. I said, you're a known commodity right now. And if someone takes you, they're taking you for their benefit. You stay here, it'll be for your benefit. What we're going to do is we're going to continue to do the things that we know how to do to help you, both in the weight room, football intelligence wise, and you're entrenched and you already know an offense. If you go somewhere else, you're going to have to learn that offense. They may move you positions because maybe they have a right tackle. You can shine and flourish in your last year here and still get all the things that you want out of it. And I think that was important, to have that conversation and just and be transparent, And then we had a long conversation. I said, do you want to go for 1 year play in a Power 5 stadium, or do you want to or is the goal to be a pro athlete? He said, I want to be a pro athlete. I said, well, I think you can get it from here. And he said, I do too. And, we finished that conversation up, and, he told me as he was walking out of the office, he just kind of looked back and he said, Coach, he goes, I know where home is. And that was pretty rewarding to have a guy spend 5 years with you and then want to spend a sixth and to see the Seahawks pick him in the 6th round. I mean, just incredible to see that goal come to fruition.
In today's college sports era, I'm old school. I love it that a kid is willing to stay that long. And there's a few other examples out there we see. And again, I'm not going to blame the kids on this. When you have an opportunity to go to a bigger program and there's money at stake and things of that nature, you can't be upset at kids when they do that. But at the same time, with all the work that you guys put in, clearly fantastic work developing this kid on and off the field into the great young man that he is now. It is incredibly rewarding to see him still stick through it and get drafted. As he said to us, seeing Michael Jerrell, Findlay College on the draft board, that was the most rewarding thing for him, not seeing another school listed there. So that's certainly exciting. Coming to Seattle, and obviously this is just part of the journey. You get drafted. There are some players, hey, I got drafted. This is great. Whatever happens from here, whatever is fine. But Michael seems like he's pretty set on making this work long-term, that he wants to stick around, that he believes he's ready to go. From a skill set standpoint, what are the Seahawks getting? What does Michael bring to the table? What are the strengths in his game? And where do you see him having the most success at this level, the top level in professional football?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and it's a key when you're playing big edge defenders, he has the ability to play long. He's got a very long reach, and he's very, very strong through his core. So he has the ability to, which a lot of times in the NFL game, when you watch it, it's moving people is good, but holding them at bay and playing long and not letting them get into your body and work those bevy of moves that they have as pro defensive ends. He has the ability to play long, which I think is great. He has the ability to anchor and play thick through his lower half. I think he does a nice job working with independent hands. I think that there are things that he can certainly clean up, and a lot of those things that he needs to clean up will come with more consistent and higher competition, where there are some things maybe he got away with because he could, that he's going to continue to grow. But he can anchor, he can move guys laterally, he can move guys vertically, and you're getting a good athlete. I mean, you saw the 40-yard dash time, the 10-yard split, the ability to move in space, and a guy that, I mean, he graduated with his undergrad and his MBA. Neither one of those was he ever below a 3.3 GPA. Never so much as got a daggone parking ticket on campus. He was either in the weight room in the football building or working a job in town. So you're getting a high character kid. You're getting a football IQ guy, and a guy that believes in the process. So he's not going to get frustrated as he continues to grow into an NFL lineman, because it is a different game. It's time for the next step.
And I think he is going to benefit immensely from the return of George Fant, who didn't play much college football at Western Kentucky, but he was undrafted free agent, and now he's going into his 9th NFL season. They brought him back this offseason, and just having that swing veteran tackle that has been through the rigors of being a undrafted or a late round guy, I think that's certainly going to benefit him. I'm going to be putting you on the spot here for your last question, and this may be kind of tricky because you did get to spend 6 years with Michael. He was with the program for more than half a decade, so I'm sure you've got a lot of really fun stories from your time coaching him, being an offensive coordinator to being a head coach. But what is an anecdote or two that really stands out that you think Seahawks fans would enjoy about this incoming offensive lineman?
Well, there's a lot that sums him up. Some of them I'm going to leave between he and I. No doubt. Now, I'll give you a side note. Our right guard, who's returning for his final year, his cousin is none other than George Fant. So Michael played right next to our senior, who was just voted a captain, Joseph Carter. His cousins with George. So a little backstory there. So
that's cool. Really cool.
Yeah. But Michael can be a comedian. He's a funny dude. He can have he can have a funny streak, but he knows when to turn it on. I think what they're going to enjoy there is the quiet confidence that he has. I think he's at the root of what a great fan base loves in their players, which is somebody that shows that grit, that toughness, that willing to do what it takes for the team. And that's what they're going to get out of him. And I think they're going to enjoy him representing their city out in Seattle.
I'm really excited to see the comedian standpoint because I actually did some stand-up before I got into sports reporting. So that'll be fun to chat with him this upcoming weekend at the rookie minicamp and see that side. We saw a little bit of it in the conference call as well, but I think he was still dealing with the shock. He thought he was going to get drafted, but then when John Schneider called him, you got to tell whoa, it's really happening. John Schneider got me here. But Kory, I greatly appreciate you taking the chance to chat with us here on Locked On Seahawks about Michael Jerrell, the 6th round pick for the Seahawks. And best of luck to your program moving forward. Again, I expect that this is going to only help you guys in the recruiting trail when you can look at guys that maybe aren't the 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars and say, hey, this kid wasn't, and look where he is at now.
That's exactly right. And I'd leave you with this, Corbin. I say thank you very much for the opportunity. And somebody asked me this morning, they said, who gets the credit for Mike Jerrell getting drafted? And I said, that's up to Mike. Mike gets to dole out credit where he wants because all of it in my eyes goes to him. He's an incredible young man. I love him to death, and I'm just so excited for him that he's turned his dream into a goal and goal into reality. And I think he's going to do great things out on the West Coast. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You can follow me on X and Threads at Corbin Smith NFL. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Seahawks on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. Coming up later today, we'll have our full episode on Monday with Rob Rang and I diving into Seattle's 8-player draft class and taking a first look at some of the reported undrafted free agent signings. Hope you'll be joining us later today. Thanks for listening in, and go Hawks.